this is why I said we should turn left.
And this is why I said we should have gone left. Because the highway would have been much closer.
Well, excuse me if you've never heard of someone being murdered, beaten up, or even mugged by any person that comes to pick you up because you're hitchhiking.
You said the really terrible stuff before the sort of terrible stuff.
What's up?
Nothing.
Oh, you're seeing spirits.
I'm gonna pretend you didn't say that.
True story, the person that actually lives down that way, he used to shoot at people for fun, because they went right past this little creek over here, yeah, that one specifically, and then he would just kind of, just go bang, and he injured quite a few kids who were playing here.
This is a weird setup for a Suicide Forest movie.
I've made a severe lapse in my judgment.
Also, it doesn't help that, the poster has nooses, Suicide Forest, what people do in the forest. I'm not going to mention more of that because I'm an asshole, but I'm not an asshole, you know what I mean? Anyway, let's get on to the review of The Forest 2016 edition, because God only knows if they ever want to remake this. It would be a terrible idea, but, it'll probably happen.
Right off the bat, we got tea. So after a nightmare and a plane ride to Japan, we found out our main character, Sarah, is in search of her twin sister, Jess, who is a school teacher in Japan. She's gone missing, and I guess maybe a day's worth of search. The police just declare her dead since she went to the
Aokigahara Forest.
Now, I'm no expert, but I do assume they, A, do some checking up before they decide to pack up, or B, they have someone who walks around trying to prevent people from going to, But they make it sound like they just looked around the forest and just shrugged their shoulders.
And that, folks, is probably the only jump scare that is actually ever going to scare you for the entire hour and a half of this movie. The jump scares are cheap and uninteresting and also not scary.
Oh my God, we're in France. I took the wrong plane. Oh my God.
How about this?
So the following morning, Sarah goes to the school Jess teaches at, and needless to say, the kids are happy to see their teacher back. The kid basically thought that she was a Yuri/ghost. We get a little history of the forest. Basically, it being near Mount Fuji, when times were tough, there were not enough mouths to feed. The elderly, the disabled, and the sick were left there to die, and the spirits cannot rest there, being angry, angry spirits. Sarah is shown to Jess's room. Wait, she lives at the school? Do they normally have teachers living in the dorms close to campus? I don't get it.
Be careful that jar. Why? She keep her stash in it? She kept Grandpa in it.
Sarah heads down to the forest. She goes to the hut that is close by and it's not looking pretty. The lady basically says that Jess is a body and she, along with the rest, are stored in the freezer in the basement. Also, someone must be with them at all times because if not, they scream. Thankfully, it's not her, but Sarah also is not going to get anyone to help her anytime soon to find Jess. Oh, hi, love interest. This is Aiden, and he's working on the next big scoop on a story, and Sarah's maybe one to help. The next day, they meet with Michi, who is going to guide them through the forest. Michi then tells them that whatever you see in the forest is not real, it's imaginary.
Thanks for the info. I make sure to immediately disregard it.
Sadly, they follow some yellow tape and find someone who is no longer of this world. Sarah gets a weird feeling, and lo and behold, they find her tent, but no Jess. Sarah argues to stay in case Jess comes back, but since she left her clothes out to dry, and Aiden decides to stay too for some reason, Michi's like, okay, sick, see you tomorrow.
Was that really necessary?
So after a little sleep, Sarah is awoken by nightmares and sees a girl, Hashiko, running away. She essentially says to not trust Aiden because Jess knows him and that Jess needs Sarah's help. But she runs away as Sarah follows, getting injured in the process. Aiden says they should leave, but Sarah wants to stay. Either way, they leave as Aiden begins trying to reverse psychology her with following a different path than what they came for and trying to go back and forth places that they've been while gaslighting her to thinking that they are not backtracking. She finally confronts him after his recording begins playing, and not only has he been lying about his job and what he's been doing, that he indeed knows Jess. Sarah runs away and finds some rope, using this as a marker as she drags it along for a bit before being chased by the person whose body they found yesterday, and falls into a dark hole. Meanwhile, Michi realizes both Aiden and Sarah are gone and calls the police. Oh, and Rob's here! Fantastic! Also, did I forget to mention that Sarah was married? Yeah, I forgot to mention Sarah was married, but it is honestly... What's the point? What's the point? Anyway, moving swiftly along, Sarah wakes up and screams about her injured foot. We realize she's in one of the many caves that's underneath the forest, and she stumbles for a bit before Hashiko pops up to show her where Jess is. Never mind, Hashiko's bad. Pennywise-looking ass. Aiden comes to her rescue. You gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. He says he's found a radio tower. No, but to prove his trust, he gives her a knife. So the fun twist is this. Aiden lives in the radio tower house thing and locked Jess in the basement. Sarah and Aiden have a tussle for the keys as Sarah accidentally stabs Aiden as he reveals that not only has Jess not been there, but dies. Oh, and the door opens, lights on and everything. Turns out to be little Jess seeing her parents in the basement as Sarah covers her eyes. The dad comes back. Why not the mom? Fuck you, that's why, and tries to kill her. She breaks free as we see Jess is alive and well. Sarah runs out being chased by Yuri as she hears her sister cry for help. Jess ends up running into the search party as her and Rob realize that Sarah is not with either party. Sarah is stopped by Hashiko and the truth is revealed. Sarah's been dead the whole time, slicing herself in the process of freeing herself, which turns out to be fake, and she's dragged into the ground. Jess realizes Sarah is dead as her spirit comes to give us one last jump scare to end the movie. Good. I do like Jess, and I like Aiden and Sarah's chemistry. But you're dating and or married, Sarah. It's later found out to be married, but, you might as well just said that these were two single people. Anyway, I just love how everyone Sarah meets is like, oh, the Suicide Forest? Your sister's there? Oh, R.I.P., brother. I'm so sorry for that. They know what's going on and just kind of don't care. I like how Aiden tries to make Sarah feel crazy for not listening to him or trying to do things herself. What a good serial killer in a movie about a suicide forest. I also like how it goes from a search and find mission to suddenly running from a crazy stalker guy while in a suicide forest. Sarah must have a great phone battery because my old one could not hold a charge for more than 5 hours before it needed to be charged again. I also like how we never know if what's happening around us is actually true or not. Bad. We don't know Aiden's name for almost 40 minutes. I had to Google it. The CGI is awful, especially for 2016. For example, Moana, Kung Fu Panda, Trolls, Zootopia. Okay, those are animated movies. But horror movie-wise, we got Don't Breathe, Ouija, Origin of Evil, Lights Out, and Cloverfield Lane. This is no excuse. It looks like a Daimbo jump scare from the early 2000s, 2006, 2007 era. There were so many jump scares, and it isn't until we're almost 40 minutes in do we see or be attempt to be in the forest, where the horror is supposed to be. Speaking of, why the Suicide Forest? Just asking because any forest could do. Also, how crazy is it that Logan Paul will go into the Suicide Forest 2 years after this movie? Yeah, I thought it was the same year, but apparently it's almost 2 years later. It's a year and a month away from being 2 years. That's actually kind of insane thinking about it. Maybe he was inspired by this movie. I don't know. It's funny to think about, but I don't know if that's actually true or not. So, allegedly, Sarah's lover or whatever did not need to be put in. He does nothing and does not help with anything in this story. So, why have this chemistry between Sarah and Aiden, honestly? There's something I don't get either. Sarah says her parents were killed by a drunk driver in the front yard, but in the flashback, it shows that the kids and grandma went to the basement and found a murder-suicide, which... Why was Sarah in the dark about it? Everyone would either be A, talking about it, or B, it would be in the news. What's the point of that? You could have just said, hey, it was a murder in the house, and it really be a murder-suicide. Even then, you could have just said the parents were dead, and then that's it. What was the point of it being, oh, it's a murder-suicide? Even though, you could have just said, hey, these parents were killed in the front yard, and then they come to get her. It would have resulted in the same way. Why have it be so convoluted when it's just supposed to be Sarah finding her sister in the suicide forest? Many questions are unanswered. How did Aiden know Jess? Why was the drunk driver story a thing? The twin thing? Why didn't Jess say Sarah's dead instead of silent? What's the deal with Hashiko? I mean, evil ghost girl, but I feel like I missed a part of the movie somewhere. Again, probably she died and is one of the main people everyone sees, but still. Like, it's just sort of like, oh yeah, evil ghost girl. Of course. Check that off my bingo card.
Oh yeah, I forgot I could teleport. You can teleport?